Good morning. Good morning. It's been a little while. I'm excited because Dr. Sue Varma is going to be joining me with her new book, Practical Optimism. So I'm going to wait for her to jump on here. And when I see her, we'll pop her into the conversation. But meantime, if you have any questions for her, put them down below. I think there's a little place to put them now with the question mark. And then I will, oh, there she is right there. And then we can ask her. Anyway, good morning, everybody. It's beautiful. Hope you guys are doing well. All right, we'll bring her in and we'll talk about the art, science, and practice of exceptional well-being, which is nice. Oh, you like her book? Good, me too. Hi there.
Hi, Tamsen,
How are you? Good,
Good.
good.
Thank
How are you doing?
you. I'm doing well. Today's pub day, so it's
I know.
big. Thank
Congratulations.
you. Thank you so much.
I'm glad you had the time to do this
Thank
today. Thank you.
you. And thank you for taking the time. I know how busy
N-
you are, so I appreciate
No,
it.
this is great. I got to tell you, your book cover makes me smile. Like
Oh.
this is like a vacation to me. It makes me very happy.
I love it. I love it. There's a whole story where I was like, because we had options with the book
Yeah.
covers. Like there was an umbrella, there was like a life raft type of thing, and I was preserver, and they were
Yeah.
yellow. Like I knew what I
Yeah.
wanted, like blue, calm, serene, and a pop of yellow. But then I'm like, these like umbrella means
Yeah.
rainy
Yeah.
day. Like I'm like, this is the
Yeah.
most
You got to think
positive.
about all those things,
Yeah,
right?
like the implications and kind of doing like focus groups, like within
Sure.
friend groups. But it was very interesting because I was like, the lemon, it's not just making, lemonade from
Yeah.
lemons, but it's also being festive and making a party out of it. And that's
Hmm.
where the umbrella comes in. And so that's the essence of practical optimism. It's like, okay, you don't just bounce back, but how do you really thrive and flourish? So the umbrella is symbolic of that, the red and the bright color.
Well, I love that because I think that a lot of times we think of like, we use the word happiness a lot, but optimism is really a larger framework of what we
Yeah.
want. You know what I mean? We want to go into situations like that. Let's talk about it first of all and dive in because I know there's like different pillars that people are going to learn throughout the book. So talk a little bit about the book and your idea. Like where did it come from?
Yeah. So, I started my career as a psychiatrist, working with 9/11 survivors.
Yeah.
So on 9/11, I was a medical student at a New York City hospital, and we were just expecting so many more people than
Yeah.
actually came. And it was like heartbreaking. And I feel like no matter where in the country you were, like I was in New York City, but no matter where you were impacted by it. And we knew, like studies showed that somebody sitting in Kansas is like, I'm just as devastated as
Yeah.
anyone else.
Yeah.
And years later, I was recruited as the first medical director of the program at NYU and Bellevue, and it was integrating mental health into the larger medical system, which is great because you can have your therapist talk to your ENT doctor, which never happens.
Yeah, because it
But
always used to be very
yes,
separate. I mean, it was very,
yes.
very separate. It was just like this other optional thing that you did.
Totally. And
Yeah.
optional, yeah, and that's the thing is like mental health is not optional. Like to me, mental health is health, and
Yeah.
there is no health without mental health. And I became interested in these subset of people who I would see in the clinic, and they would screen, like they would screen everyone for mental health symptoms. But if they didn't have mental health symptoms, they would still stay as part of the regular monitoring program
Yeah.
and be brought in once a year. So I was like, who are these folks that I see in the hallways that were exposed to the same level of devastation and tragedy, whether it was injury to their body, whether it was loss of loved
Yeah.
ones, loss of coworkers, loss of job, loss of income, loss of housing. And these folks don't develop anxiety or depression. What is unique about
Yeah.
them? And how can the rest of us learn? So, this whole idea about resilience is bouncing back from adversity. Great,
Mm-hmm.
right? But how do we thrive in the face of it?
Right.
Because none of us are going to leave this world without disappointment or loss or grief. And when I looked at resilience, one of the key components was optimism. But I always thought, and many people think of optimism as something you're born with or
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
right? Like you just
Yeah.
have this like
Yeah. I just
genetic,
don't have that.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah. You're right. You're right.
yeah. And then I learned that that's actually not the case, that yes, there is kind of like a genetic component. Some people are born looking at things brighter, more optimistically, but it's only 25% of optimism that's
Wow.
genetic. And the rest, 75%, is learned. And so if you can learn it, you can teach it. And what it was really about was skills, like
Yeah.
coping with stress, asking for help. So then I just went on a journey, like in the last 10 years, of how do we then distill it into very simple, very tangible, very concrete ways so that all of us can practice
Yeah.
it, no matter half glass half full or glass half empty
Yeah.
type.
Let's go through a few of them if you don't mind,
Yeah,
because I
please.
think it's really important. And I know, people are jumping in saying they want to get the book. You can get the book anywhere that that you buy books, but Amazon,
Yeah,
right? Or is there, you have a website
everywhere.
too?
Yeah, I have a website. It's
Okay.
drsuvarma.com, the word doctor written out, but it's available anywhere books are sold. And this is what it looks like on
It'll
Amazon, Barnes and
make
Noble.
you smile when you see
Yes,
it.
you'll
It'll make
feel
you
trans
smile when you see
you'll
it.
feel
Um,
transported.
Okay, so yeah, so let's talk about some of those pillars
Yeah.
of where people can start, because I think that you're right about that. I think that we think, oh, I'm just not an optimistic person, or I am, and then there's nothing else I can do
Yes.
about it. But to know that there's something that you can do about it gives you hope.
Absolutely. And also like in the very beginning, I give
Hmm.
people a quiz, right? And
Hmm.
so you get a lay of
Yeah,
the land of like, all right, these are the different
yeah.
pillars, right? And I don't tell you what pillars they are until you finish the
Okay,
quiz.
great,
And so you figure out, okay, this is something I need to work
right.
on. So the first pillar, and while it's in no particular order, it follows an arc of having a purpose, and that purpose can be purpose in life,
Hmm.
or it could be purpose in a relationship, it could be purpose in an activity. And I know that, Tamden, like a lot of women midlife may say, like, I don't know what my
Yeah,
purpose is. Like I was taking care of kids for so
yeah.
long and now they're grown up, or they don't need me as much. And whatever you can be in your 20s and 30s and you're trying to figure out like, quarter life crisis,
Hmm.
reinvention, no matter
Hmm.
where you are in life. Like I give a lot of stories in this, and the story that I'm talking about is someone who's in his 40s and he has 3 kids and he's like,
Hmm.
I feel like I have to reconnect. So
Hmm.
really all of us will experience this. And what I say about purpose is a few things. Number one, purpose does not have to come from your
Yeah,
paycheck. It can be
yeah.
any
It's
number
so
of things you do
important.
outside, right? And like purpose, no one else has to understand.
Yeah,
Purpose does not have to be glamorous. Your purpose yesterday is not necessarily going to be purpose today or your purpose tomorrow. We're constantly evolving, and so is our purpose. And then if you feel like I just can't, like I'm not feeling motivated, I'm not feeling inspired, I say put the cart before the horse. And
hmm,
that was a tip I learned in cognitive behavioral therapy, which I went to like to learn about myself.
yeah.
And like
Me too.
any good therapist, tell me like what, like I loved it, and I was
Me
like, this
too.
is so actionable.
Me too. I
So
felt like I walked away with tools,
yes,
and I think that's important versus like spending an hour talking about my
yes,
problems. I feel like I actually walked away with tools so that when I left my session, I was kind of still in it, living it all the time
yes.
versus I got to wait till the next time I talk to a therapist.
Yes, and that's what I love, Tim. That was in my like sort of the blueprint of this is very
Yeah,
actionable, very tangible, and it's all
yeah,
free. And so one of the tips from cognitive behavioral therapy is put the cart before the horse, behavioral activation. And if you are not feeling inspired and motivated,
yeah.
totally okay. Like just start
That's
populating
great.
your calendar with activities like of joy. And people don't realize that, because I will say, what do you love doing? And when's the last time you did it? So keep that in mind. And exercise, believe it or not, helps boost purpose. So if you're like, I'm bored, I'm empty, I can't get motivated, go for a quick walk, go for a quick
You know
workout.
what's so funny about that? And I've been trying to get outside and just kind of see the light every day because I read a big study about it. But I have to say, yesterday I went down to work out, and like I did 30 minutes on the treadmill, like kind of watching a movie at the same time, and not it wasn't like a workout. I felt so good the rest of the day, and I went, please tell. I know it's that, but
Yes,
every once in a while, I
yes,
think we
yes,
forget what a big deal that is to get moving.
100%.
I mean, I think it just makes a huge
Amazing.
difference. I couldn't agree with you more.
Yes, you feel like you won the day. I mean, even
Yeah,
though
you're
maybe
right.
because it's a boost of like endorphins,
Yeah.
all of that.
Success. There's some
Yes,
success that is
absolutely.
attributed to it, even even if it's something as simple as walking. So I'm glad you said that.
Totally,
I'm really glad you
totally.
said that.
And success begets more success.
Yeah.
So let's keep that in mind. Same thing with purpose.
That's I want to talk to you about that because I know we have a lot of people that talk about that and talk about getting unstuck and saying like, what's next. And my story. I was in news for 30 years, and I just really felt like I felt in my gut something else. I needed to do something else, and I don't. And I think we look at purpose sometimes as like, okay, what's my next
Mm,
career? And so I think that you make a really good point that what your purpose today is doesn't have to be tomorrow. Like we're not lining it up for our purpose for the next 10
yes.
years.
Yes, and that takes so much pressure off of us, like
Yeah.
to have it all figured out. I think that there's so much pressure on everyone. And the thing is we're all, I hate to say this, I mean, this is the downside of social media. The good side is we're connected,
Yeah.
right? And we're creating
Yeah.
community here, but the downside is that everyone seems to have it all figured
Yeah.
out, and then that makes the rest of us feel like people look at you and Tams, and they're always just like, that like and you do have it all figured out, but like, oh, we're all human, right? There are days where we're
I
like,
don't.
what?
I
We're like,
don't.
yeah, like we're like, what, so trusting that instinct of like, it's okay, like you're making a choice. These are choices that you're making. And
Hmm.
one of the underlying themes is being intentional intentional, being deliberate, being thoughtful, and sort of mapping it out. And totally cool if you're only mapping it out for like the next hour.
Yep.
Like let's take it in small bite-sized chunks.
Yeah, and I think that's what we actually see with people are really small bite-sized chunks. And so we don't really know what the other, 23 plus hours
Yes.
are in a day. So when we look at somebody and they've got some neat pictures or a video, you just don't
Yes.
know what's happening.
Yes.
The other pillar that I just want to address is problem solving, because I think that that's where we get stuck.
Mhm.
We hit upon a problem, whether it's early in the morning or late at night, that keeps us up all night. But problem solving is a real skill. I
Mhm.
think that, if you can learn that early on,
Yes.
I think you achieve a lot faster and waste a lot less time.
Yes, and two things that come to mind. One is when I'm struggling, when I was a kid growing up and I would struggle with a problem, my parents would ask, is this sort of from their Eastern
Yeah.
background, they would say, is this a problem to be solved or a truth to be accepted?
Wow.
Right?
Okay. That's
Is
great.
it a
That's
problem to be
great.
solved or a truth to be accepted? And then it really like makes you stop, because I think my Western upbringing is go, 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 figure it out, rah, rah, rah,
Yeah.
you got this, make it happen. And if you're
Yeah.
not making it happen, you blame yourself, because you're
Yeah.
like, but this is the land of abundance and
I
opportunity, right?
failed.
But
Yep.
yeah, yes, and you blame yourself, versus like the Eastern philosophy is, a little bit more like it's ancient wisdom, and they know that like everyone is going to experience grief and loss and disappointment and suffering. Like that is part of life. And so there's a little bit more grace given to the individual. So
Hmm.
I feel like it's totally okay to say, like, I don't got this. And then with the problem solving, if it is a problem to be solved, recognize that at any given time, you are contending with a battle on two fronts. One is what's happening in the outside world, the concrete, actionable steps you need
Yeah.
to take. But then there's also a battle in your own mind.
Hmm.
And emotional regulation is a big part of problem
Yes,
solving
it
that I
is.
talk about, that no one realizes, because it's like you get mired in your own pessimism, your own negativity. Like nothing, it won't work out. Like if I wanted a raise and my boss, they're not going to say yes. Nobody wants me. So
Right. Right.
we don't even leave the house, like metaphorically speaking, because we end up being our own biggest critics. So we don't even take
Yeah.
a chance. And I have something called a problem solving punch list, like 25 questions that are like, okay, if money wasn't an issue, how would you handle this
Yep.
problem? Who can you ask? So it helps you. It's sort of like self coaching, if you will.
Well, I think it's great. When I went through my divorce, I had this boss that I didn't particularly get along with, but I'll never forget what he said. He's like, this is everything that you feel right now is not going to be like this 365 days from now. It's not going to even be like this 90 days from now. And it was like this simple thing. I don't know what it was, but I never forgot it, because it got me through that next part, knowing that
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't going to always be like this. And I think that it's something to appreciate, and then something to be aware of in terms of well-being, because otherwise you can ruminate and just kind of you can get lost in it. It just keeps kind of like perpetuating itself.
Totally, yes. And rumination, we know, like has like a signature in the brain, like a signature pathway that
Hmm.
when it's going on for too long, it can lead to anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
And so the best way, like for me, is like taking a walk, because there's science behind it. Optic flow causes you to like look left and right when you're walking. You don't want to get hit by a car, by a deer, depending on where you
Yep.
live.
Yep.
So you're forced to get outside your own head, like literally the simple act. And it's what's behind EMDR, a form of like trauma therapy. So if you're really struggling, I think two big things, like with ruminations and perseverating, which
Hmm.
happens to me,
Yeah.
normal.
Yeah.
Keeping a journal, 15 minutes a
Yeah.
day of getting stuff in your head out on paper. So much science behind it. People have less colds, less infections, less heart attack, right? You can save
Wow.
yourself if you make a regular practice. I mean, of course, diet and
Yeah.
exercise, but like
Yeah.
journal, it costs more energy to suppress negative emotions
Then
than
just
it
write
does to release
it
them.
out.
Yeah,
Then just
right.
write it out.
Yeah, but it has to be like sort of, even I would say 2 to 3 times a day, 15 minutes, just write out. It could be as simple as just writing your emotions, right? But then
Yep.
I give people in the pillar of processing an exercise, and I call it name it, claim it, tame it, and
Hmm.
reframe it. So it's like name the antecedent, claim where it exists in your body, tame it by the journaling or the meditation or whatever soothes you, and then reframing and stepping back. And I love what your boss said to you, because that's a reframe. And that's one of the questions I ask people, I ask myself is it going to matter 90 days, 6 months,
Right?
a year from now, 5 years from
Yeah.
now, 10 years?
I never forgot that. And so every once in a while I find myself, and look, in every other way, like he wasn't my favorite boss, but that advice was it was so important. I think we hear things that at the right time and
Yes,
when we need to hear them.
yes,
Okay. So I know today is your launch. So
yes.
congratulations. I know
Thank
you're,
you.
doing a lot. We're going to see you in a lot of places on media.
Thank you.
If you guys are just jumping in here, I'll save this video so you can see it again. Practical Optimism, Dr. Sue Varma, and I'm so excited for you. This,
Thank
I think
you.
this cover makes me
Thank you.
smile. So I'm so happy to
Thank you
see it, and I'm
so
sure we'll
much.
connect again
Yes.
and have you back on here for for longer. But I wanted to just make sure people got to
Thank
see
you.
you, and
Yes.
a link to the book wherever you buy books and your website. Where can people
Yes.
find you on social
And
too?
on at Dr. Sue Varma, the full word doctor, Doctor, Sue Varma.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
And I'm
Thank you.
following her too, so you can check
Thank
it out
you.
there.
Thank
All
you so much
right.
for your support. It means a
Yo,
lot,
please,
Tamsen. Yes.
congratulations.
Thank you. Talk to you
Okay,
soon.
we'll talk
Okay, take
soon.
care.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.